Well, this is episode 345, believe it or not, of the 3 Point Podcast presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Give them a follow on Facebook, and you really should. If you're not a member there, you can find out how to save $60 on a membership that easily. Over 25 fitness classes, access to all their top-notch amenities. More info can be found at memorialhealthcare.org. Our other sponsors include AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. Let me just jump in real quick, like on the catch-ups a portion here, guys. I mean, maybe our listeners, maybe you guys are tired when I talk about my grandkids, but I had just a great experience. I bet your parents have the same kind of experience. Parker, Jessica's daughter, she's the 6-year-old that lives in Royal Oak. She had a school off day last Friday. Her other daughter, Sloan, had to go to school. So Jessica needed a babysitter. My wife, Lana's out in D.C. with the other two grandchildren.
Grandpa Ted to the rescue.
Grandpa Ted came on down. I had the game plan all set up. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take Parker out on a little date. We're going to go out for breakfast to her favorite place, and then play some games at home. I got to tell you guys, maybe it's old age setting in. Maybe I'm looking back at my life and going, I don't have that much ahead of me. But when I sat down and I'm having a breakfast with my 6-year-old granddaughter, carrying on conversations like an adult, she's very good for me. And then on top of that, when her mom was about the same age, here I am, I'm a single dad. And, I remember doing the same type of thing, taking her out to breakfast, just have a normal everyday type of life. I had such a deja vu flashback to Jessica when she was 6 years old. We're talking, almost 40 years ago. Right. But it was awesome. It's just a great experience reliving, life as a grandparent. And maybe, there's a lot less stress because you don't have to raise them, so you can just have fun. It was awesome. That's my catch up. I mean, it was just a great time with Parker.
No, it is. And you can see it. I mean, Jared, if you or your brothers ever have kids, you'll see your parents, doing that as grandparents. Cause I see it with my parents, when they're with their grandkids, and you can tell that it's different than when you're raising them because you're grandma and grandpa, you're fun, you're bringing presents, you get to do all the fun crafts and, take them out to, like you said, to breakfast, take them out to movies and stuff like that. And I bet you that is part of it. You get past the raising kids, the stress of everyday life and work and activities and just the craziness of when you're raising your family. So then when you get to step back and just be grandma and grandpa, I can't imagine. It's probably like the best thing in the world, especially because we all know parents always, I'm in it right now. Kids are always kids are fine, but they act a little different with their parents than they do with their grandparents. You always hear like when you take them to daycare or you drop them off with a babysitter, something, and they're like, oh, they were so great. They were listening, they were following directions, they ate their whole dinner, all that kind of stuff. Right. You're like, where is this kid when they're at home with us every night? So like you said, she's probably sitting there like an angel, listening to you, talking to you. So no, it is cool. It's fun to see. And I know my wife has said the same about her parents. It's fun to see your parents in grandparent roles. So it's cool you get to do that.
Yeah, I wish I had like some, soul touching moment like Uncle Ted had there. Basically, my catch up is it's almost like nothing, but I'll just throw it out there anyway because it was a fleeting thought I had. So it's funny how when you're on TikTok or Instagram, they target things that you want to see. We all know that. We can lie about it, but whenever you flip open your feed, it's what you spend the most time watching.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, this past week I've just been bombarded by like college football season flashbacks set to like emotional songs, and it just got me thinking, man, I am gonna miss college football. It really is. Now the Lions are out, and we only got one more damn football game left. It really is putting me in kind of a depressing mood this week following Sunday's games. Football is done, college football especially, where truly it does feel like each season is a new book, a new chapter in the college football story, whereas NFL, we get Patrick Mahomes for 15 years. college football, a guy like Scatabo is in the book for maybe a chapter or two, and then he's gone just forever. I'm just really kind of down in the dumps over that. Whereas, flash forward or on the other side of the coin, look at Ted. He's like having soul moments with his grandson. I'm on my phone watching Cam Scatabo highlights,
right?
Emotional musical tracks. So I don't know what you do with that info, but do you guys somewhat agree that there's something kind of majestic about each college football season where maybe the NFL doesn't have that same appeal, where it truly is like a new novel each time you flip it open, first or end of August every year? Is that a weird random thought, or what are we feeling on that?
I mean, it's definitely random because I didn't expect you to say that, but no, I think we all probably feel it, and I think of it, recently with the Michigan national championship team, now from a couple of years ago, when you see those highlights from the Rose Bowl against Alabama or from the national title game or the last few years, the games against Ohio State, just it does make you think like, man, when you're in the moment, you're thinking like this team's pretty good. JJ McCarthy, yeah, he's really good. Blake Corum, he's fun to watch. But now that it's basically 2 years ago, it is a little bit like, man, that really was like that was a peak football season right there of watching Michigan football. So it is kind of nostalgic like that when you watch. But I think maybe in a sense that's kind of cool about college sports because you get a new batch of players to cheer for every kind of every season you get a new batch of guys to cheer for. So that can make it kind of exciting too. Makes college basketball kind of hard. I feel like we've talked about that.
Oh yeah.
Because every year with college basketball, you're learning a whole new roster. I mean, Michigan this year is a completely whole new roster, but no, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I can also, Jared, I know you want to jump back in here, but I was just going to say, the Michigan National Championship season really, to me, and I think most Michigan fans, really the last true college football national championship. I mean, yeah, we got the playoff now. It's more NFL oriented, and then with all the other changes in college football, it's still something I'll watch, I'll enjoy. But things have changed. Things have big time changed in college football. I kind of put it more at this time of year, knowing there's 2 weeks left of football. The NFL's done after the Super Bowl. That's when my depression hits, and it's time to look at college basketball. Maybe a little bit later in the spring, we'll get into the NBA, at least from where I sit. But it is a depressing time when football is ending.
Yeah, and it's like you think about what we just came from. These last 4 years, if it was like a 4-part series, a novel with 4 different books. I mean, this Michigan run we've been on, talk about theater. I mean, the whole Ohio State rivalry, Ohio State winning a national championship despite that. We won a national championship in those 4 years. It's the best football we've ever seen in our lifetime. So I know there's another series coming up, in the last week of November this year with Ohio State. Can they finally get over the hump? But to me, that book is closed. That's 4 parts, and it's done forever. And college basketball even kind of feels the same way. Again, this is just almost like not a high thought, but it kind of is. It's like, Oakland, you get to know them, and as soon as you get to know them, they're out and gone forever, this magical team. So it's just a sad reality I'm in where, like you said, 2 more weeks of football and then done. That's kind of all I got to live for right now. So.
It is kind of crazy, though, how, I mean, we've probably talked about this before, but how football really has turned into a year-round thing. Because even, I mean, the college football playoff, the national title game just ended. I mean, we're in basically the end of January. Super Bowl is, beginning of February, mid-February anyway. And then after that, you start talking about the NFL draft, of course, right away. You start talking about spring football with college football. Then you're on to summer, and then we know the season's right there. So it is crazy how football really has turned into a year-round sport.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to hop into some other sports, but we'll actually have the Prep Spotlight coming up next here on 3 Point Podcast right after this. All right, guys, time for the Prep Spotlight presented by the Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. We'll start in boys basketball. Last Friday night, the Chesapeake Indians picked up a win on Z92.5 over New Lothrop, 64-32. Braden Florian had 24 in that one for the Indians. Perry, an overtime win over Saranac, 68-66. The Ramblers beat the Redhawks for the second time this season in OT. DJ Jenks had 21 for the Ramblers. And then Durand over Birch Run, 54-43. Levi Smith, 18 for the Railroaders. In girls basketball last Friday, Corunna down Lake Fenton 45-33. Rachel Steinecker had 14 for the Cavs. New Lothrop over Chesaning 47-26. Caitlin Wendley 19 for the Hornets. And Durand over Birch Run 51-27. Taylor Carlson a double-double with 10 points and 17 boards. In swimming Thursday night, Owasso, man, they seem to have a dominant swim team. They downed Ovid Elsie 146-37. The Trojans stay hot, improving to 4-0 after sweeping all 12 events once again. I think I talked about that last pod or the pod before that they swept all the events. So congratulations on Owasso swimming. Back to basketball for a second, though. Just some big news out of Michigan and Orchard Lake St. Mary. Trey McKinney, a McDonald's first team All-American, was it? Or just a McDonald's All-American team? Either way, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, McDonald's All-American. He's committed to Michigan. Dusty May was able to keep that commitment, and that's a big deal to get a player like that. I saw Michigan's 24th McDonald's All-American that they've had committed, which
Really?
I don't know. I didn't look up where that stands in the country, but I think
Right.
that's probably. I'd be curious how many Michigan State or like Kentucky,
Mhm.
Duke, North Carolina probably have, a slew. Kansas, those teams
Yeah.
probably have a ton, but 24. See, the obvious, looking at the list, I won't go through the whole list, but I know because you got some other prep spotlight stuff. Obviously, Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, Juwan Howard, those are some of the big ones.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Ramil Robinson and Terry Mills, who were on the national title team, they were McDonald's All-Americans. So those are two big recruits that they got back then. But I remember, the legend that people always hear about. Like I feel like Eric Woodyard, who we've had on, who's from
Mhm.
Flint. And when we talk about Flint basketball, Eric Turner, who went to Flint Central. I feel like, Ted, you probably remember his name.
One of the best high school guards I have
Right.
ever seen.
Yeah, people, best player maybe ever in Flint, definitely maybe in Michigan. Yeah, like what you just said. He was a McDonald's All-American,
Right.
committed to Michigan. So they've got a list. But also, I didn't realize either recently, Jared's era, I didn't realize Kobe Buffkin, or maybe I just forgot. Kobe Buffkin was a McDonald's All-American.
Oh, wow.
So that was big for him to go to Michigan. But
No,
when you start
whole
looking at the
era-
list of guys, it's like, wow, I didn't realize some of these guys were McDonald's All-Americans.
that Buffkin era is like a forgotten era. I don't know. I don't.
Well, yeah,
you
the list
saying that does sound wild. It's like what he was like.
Three guys in that. He was a McDonald's All-American in 2021. He went to Grand Rapids Christian, also outside of Michigan, but they went to Michigan. Remember Musa Diabate and then Caleb Houston? They were also McDonald's All-Americans. Three guys. That team got three McDonald's All-Americans, and kind of didn't really pan out too much. But anyway, yeah, cool for Trey McKinney to get that, and hopefully he keeps that. Hopefully Dusty May is able to keep that commitment because that would be big.
I'm going to be curious what his game looks like at the next level. I've seen him play a couple times in person, and I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", a little bit bulkier, probably 225, maybe weighs a little bit more. He almost feels like he just out physicals everybody at the high school level, which I would too if I was his size and strength. I just wonder, is he going to be just like a microwave scorer? I'm very curious to see how he projects to college. I was actually just talking about that with one of my coworkers the other day who happened to go to their game. Let me just say this: the Catholic school league here in Detroit for basketball, it is like the best atmosphere of games week after week. It's like a true college conference. It's kind of how it feels. Like the hatred, the physicality. The courts are all old school, small courts, and the stands are all filled. So Brother Wright's actually just beat them. Brother Wright's probably arguably the best team in this state right now. Just beat them on a buzzer beater. Beat them 66-64. And I'm just telling you, week in, week out, these conference games for Catholic School League are like some of the best in maybe the entire country. So it's something to keep an eye on. These games are awesome. Like, just check out the highlights if you haven't seen. They stormed the court after they made the shot at the buzzer. Brother Rice did. So it's really just fun to follow. And Trey McKinney's definitely the best player in the state. I'll be curious to see, can he propel his team, which definitely lost a lot of its talent from last year. Can he propel it just basically single-handedly to a state title this year? It's gonna be fun to see.
Did they win a state title last year?
Yeah. And they were just a loaded team from top to bottom. He definitely was the best player. Now it's a little bit more on his shoulders as a senior. They graduated some talent, and all the other teams around him got a little bit better. So should be a fun Class A title. Even our guy, Coach Clough at Rockford, they're legit this year. So I'm very excited to see how Class A pans out.
Yeah. Well, can't wait. And the boys' high school tournament is going to finish up, I think, a week or so earlier than it normally does. So it's right around the corner. It starts in end of February. So stay tuned. There's a lot of good teams involved. In fact, a couple teams in our area that are pretty good, obviously. Chesaning and Novodelcy. It'll be our Z92.5 game of the week this coming Friday night, January 31st, 7 o'clock from the Marauder Gym. I get to slip back in the saddle again, do a little play-by-play. Kind of looking forward to that one. That's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
What'd you come up with? What can you tease the creativity of the 40-year reunion? Jared was saying you should come up with something.
Yeah, the only creativity I came up with has already been posted on Twitter, and that was the intro from 1985 with Merrill Walker. The quality, obviously, I appreciate you posting it on our Twitter site, but that quality was terrible. But there's nothing I could do about it. That was just the tape quality that I had from that game.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of hard to even like. What I picked away from that 2 minutes, and it is, you're right, the quality is not great, but still it's an awesome little thing to listen to.
How
you have like the old like 1980s like play-by-play style. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like the nerdy librarian is how I describe it. And so it's cool that I hear you now. And it's like you clearly found your voice somewhere from there where you're just doing an impression of like, I don't even know what old-timey baseball broadcaster to now where it's just your voice. So it's funny to kind of listen back to that. Do you notice the same thing? Is it almost like an impression?
Oh, it was so terrible, Jared. I mean, I've told the story before, but even just getting on the air, I remember going up to the Alma Gym with Clem Sellers, the old sales guy from WAP. He was the guy that would be my sidekick on that first season. I remember he said, 15 seconds to air, and I truly thought I was going to pass out. I mean, this is radio. I was so nervous, and I had leading up to that point, I was so cocky and confident.
All right.
And then once I jumped into it, the bad on me, didn't really do a lot of homework, really didn't know the players, even on Corunna, who was the team I'm supposed to cover, didn't even know them that well. So the delivery was so choppy and slow and just dull. But thank goodness they did stick with me because it got better.
Who were you like impersonating in that? Who was your idol?
Ernie Harwell?
Right around that time. You know the type of guy that announces that way.
I don't even know. The advice I'd give somebody, and back when I started that, I thought, well, I have this radio voice, and just not be yourself. And the whole key to, at least putting out a good presentation is just be yourself, that's what I learned. And the other thing, some people say, well, I don't like listening to myself, or I don't like watching myself, but boy, oh boy, that's how you learn. There's so many bad habits that I would say on broadcast, and I go, why am I saying that so much?
So many times, right?
So it helps you in your homework just to clean up stuff if you do listen to it. So
it is fun. There's probably a ton of people who think that like, oh, I could flip the mic on and I could do play-by-play, or I could do that because I know football or I know basketball, but there's a lot more to it. It's kind of like the criticism that Tom Brady has gotten. I mean, obviously he's improved through the season
for sure.
But, I wonder if to an extent he thought Tony Romo can do it. Greg Olson can do it. I can do that. I can talk football. So a little different than when that red light turns on and people at home are listening to you. It's kind of like, whoa, all right.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, this has been the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance. Let's get into a potpourri of sports, including NFL. We got a Super Bowl in front of us. We got college basketball. Both our state teams playing well, Pistons and Red Wings. We'll get into all that right after this.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, Jared, how depressed were you when you saw the Eagles just dominate the Commanders?
I hate the Eagles, man. I really do. And we'll talk about the Chiefs in a minute. The Eagles are the villain to me in this championship game. It's hard not to respect what they do. I mean, just able to run the rock and anybody. Saquon is maybe my favorite player in the entire NFL, which is ironic because I hate pretty much the rest of his squad other than Jalen Hurts. Did you guys just to swing it back to Lions for a millisecond, because we're still kind of reeling from that Commanders game still at this point.
True.
Did watching the Commanders just get their doors blown off, did that make you feel better about where the Lions are or worse? What did you make of that? I mean, my God, that was kind of jarring to see unfold.
I definitely had some friends texted me saying this game does not make me feel better about the Lions watching the Eagles. Because my thought was I wasn't, going into the playoffs, I wasn't too worried about the Eagles because I was like, you know what, if you Saquon's going to do his thing. He's probably the best running back in the league right now, maybe outside of Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe too. But I wasn't too worried about Jalen Hurts. I was like, Hurts, he kind of is who he is. I wasn't too worried about the Eagles. But then to see them drop 55 on the Commanders was a little head scratching. The big thing to me was they knew the game plan. One, don't turn the ball over like what the Lions did, but they ran the ball basically 40 times. I mean, they were like, the Commanders cannot stop Saquon Barkley. We're giving him the ball as much as possible. Jalen Hurts is going to run. I mean, we're just going to pound the rock, and we're going to run and run and run, and they're not going to stop us. I mean, Jalen Hurts had 10 rushes. Will Shipley had 4. They just ran the ball over and over. I know the game played out a little differently with the Lions with the turnovers and stuff, but I would have liked to see that game plan for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs was getting 8 yards every time he touched the ball. Just give him the ball over and over and over. Montgomery, I guess, in theory, was healthy. Give him some more carries too. I know they fell behind, so they had to play a little catch up. But that was kind of my thought watching that game. This is what I wish the Lions would have done.
100% agree with that take. And then also, I definitely think if the Lions would have got past the Commanders, they would have definitely put up a lot better battle against the Eagles at Ford Field and probably would have picked up the win. At least I can speculate that.
Right.
But I think also part of the Commanders' problems, obviously, other than what you saw on the field was, I mean, they had to have a little bit of a hangover after beating the Lions, the number 1 seed, at Ford Field. They're thinking they're on top of the world, and maybe they didn't have their full, the word I use, karma in front of them for the Eagle game. I don't know, but the Eagles are pretty good, especially
they're good
in Philly.
Well, I know you're jumping in, Jared. They played a clean game.
Yep.
I really, if the Lions wouldn't have turned the ball over 5 times, I think the Lions probably would have beat the Commanders. You turn the ball over 5 times, one of them being a pick 6.
Right.
It's going to be tough to beat anybody in the playoffs. The Eagles didn't do that.
Right.
It's hard not to appreciate I devalued the running back so much that when we it almost seemed like that was the tipping point, like the Gibbs draft, where I was like, this is so dumb. Why would we draft a running back so high? But then you hear stories where it's like the Bears basically opted out of the Saquon Barkley sweepstakes because they wanted to sign DeAndre Swift for $4 million less. And it's like, how did this happen? Where $4 million, we didn't think that was worthwhile to go get the best running back we've seen in 15 years.
Well, worse than that,
Saquon to have the season he's having. It's the best season maybe I've seen in my lifetime from a running back. But still, it's just amazing how far that pendulum swung. And now I think we're all seeing it kind of swing back. It sucks for us just in time for Gibbs' contract to be up in a couple years, where we're going to have to pay him probably twice as much as we maybe would have if Saquon didn't have this renaissance. But I agree with what you said, Ted. The Commanders definitely didn't have that same fight. It's hard to. Their season was ultimate success the second they beat the Lions.
Yep.
And to have that same hunger. Think about the Eagles. Eagles have been Super Bowl or bust, similar to what the Lions were, since game number 1. Whereas the Commanders were just happy to be there once they knocked off the number 1 seed. Their season was made. They're going to have a hell of a time in Cancun, as they say.
Yep.
I know it was a tough loss, but the reality is they had one hell of a season, and they got a lot to build for heading into next year. So.
Yeah, think about the teams coming off a loss. The Lions, how they feel, and how the Commanders feel. The Commanders, they're bummed, but they're saying, we had a great season. We got something to build on now. Maybe we'll make the Super Bowl next year. And the Lions, it's all big question mark, hands up in the air. Maybe.
Right. I mean, the Commanders have, the rookie quarterback coming back. I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury said that, maybe he'll take some jobs. I don't know what their staff is going to look like, but we know the Lions coaching staff is basically falling apart and, just got question marks. Jared Goff is fine, but, he is getting a little older versus the rookie quarterback. So, the Commanders right now are cool, great season to build on. Whereas Lions are, kind of scratching their heads.
Throw a hypothetical out to you guys. And I mean, listen, I don't want to be doom and gloom. This is just me looking into the crystal ball at the future and wondering who's going to be the scapegoat at some point. Let's say we have another year like this next year, and then maybe we fall short again 2 years from now. Don't you guys think it's going to eventually be a Jared Goff Rams type deal to upgrade at quarterback? One of the guys I've looked at, Joe Burrow. I mean, let's say the Bengals have a couple more rough seasons where they miss the playoffs, or they get bounced early, defense looks terrible, maybe a couple injuries, I don't know. Let's just say 2 years down the road, we have 2 disappointing years. Don't you guys envision that that's probably the first big thing to drop would be replacing Goff? I like Goff. I hope that this doesn't come. I just know how the NFL is, and where else would you point if we have struggles like we did the last 2 years? And that's the spot where you upgrade.
What value do you think Goff will have a couple years down the road? That's what would concern me. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's done great things with Detroit, but I don't know. A couple years down the road, no Super Bowl appearance to show for it. I don't know, and a big contract.
Well, that's the thing. If you got to at least get to the Super Bowl, and then obviously once you get there, you want to win. But that's where this team is now, with the roster, with the expectations, with Goff, being who he is. The expectation is to get to a Super Bowl, and that's kind of where like the Bills are with Josh Allen. Yeah. And I saw people kind of your scenario, Jared, that you're talking about. People throwing out, would you do a Goff Stafford trade for Josh Allen if the Bills are like, listen, this isn't working with Josh Allen? Trade Jared Goff and a first round pick or something.
4 first rounders for him. Yeah.
Right.
It's
interesting like thought. I mean, I don't think the Bills are ready to move on from Josh Allen, but I just saw it was people on Twitter, so it's not any NFL journalists or anything like that.
I think if you go and think we're fast forwarding 2 years, what if it is another 2 years of Allen, with shortcomings in the playoffs, or Burrow shortcomings in the playoffs, or whatever next stud quarterback that there might be? It's just something to throw out there for pod fodder. I do think eventually, if it's either Super Bowl or Goff will be moved at some point.
I do think
that's the one move that would be made to kind of try to put all the infinity stones in Thanos' hand is you got to upgrade at quarterback.
Right.
It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair to Goff, especially if you do that twice in his career.
Right.
I just don't know. That just seems to be a likely scenario to me.
Reality.
I do. I mean, that's also the life of the NFL. If unless you are, I mean, even Peyton Manning took 6 or 7 years to win a Super Bowl. I mean, not very many guys are like Tom Brady and win Super Bowls early in their career. Even it took Mahomes, a little while to get things going. I think they're on a good deal right now with Goff. He's under contract to 2027, and I think there's an option for like 2028 or something like that. So I think that's like a good window where, like, listen. This team right now is built to win. Like you mentioned, the Gibbs, you're going to have to pay some of these rookies in the next 2, 3, 4 years. So right now you've got Goff. If they really don't think Hendon Hooker is good enough to come in that one series in the playoffs, at some point, it's the same thing we were saying when they had Stafford. At some point, unless you're just going to trade Goff and hope for a veteran, are they going to draft a legitimate quarterback next year or this year for when Goff does move on that they can develop? That would maybe be a conversation too. But, because we saw it, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, they had Alex Smith when they drafted Patrick Mahomes and they let him sit. We've seen other guys, obviously Aaron Rodgers, it worked out him sitting behind Brett Favre for a couple of years. And, obviously Jaden Daniels was a rookie and he was thrown right in and it worked out. Bo Nix with the Broncos, it worked out. So sometimes it does work out with rookie quarterbacks, but it doesn't all the time. So you wonder if Brad Holmes will draft a quarterback in the next, 1 or 2 or 3.
I wouldn't hate it. It's time to move on to Hooker. We saw nothing, but we saw everything at the same time with Hooker. It's time to move on. He ain't the guy. He's not the heir apparent. It's not even a backup. Apparently, he's a third stringer. So it's just time to move on. Unfortunately,
I mean, if anything, he's still he's not really that young because he was in college for like 5-6 years. But he's relatively young. So maybe you could trade him. Maybe some team would take a flyer on him for like a 3rd round pick, or something like that. And then bring in some veteran dude that can just back up Goff for the next year or two. Maybe that's the move. But either way, it's you have to have an elite quarterback because Josh Allen, I would say, is elite, and he can't beat Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Jaden Daniels looks like he's probably going to be elite, and you got Jalen Hurts over there with the Eagles, taking the Eagles back to the Super Bowl. So everyone's annoyed with the Chiefs, but it's like, man, if if you don't have a quarterback, I mean, Joe Burrow he probably had one of the best seasons in the NFL. Bengals couldn't even make the playoffs. So, you have to have an elite quarterback. And luckily, a lot of those guys are over in the AFC, but there's some good young quarterbacks in the NFC. I mean, now the NFC North, I mean, if JJ McCarthy actually turns into what we hope, not as Lions fans, we don't hope that he turns in, but as Michigan fans, we hope he does. Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy. I mean, those are 3 young quarterbacks in the NFC North. Jared Goff better kind of get it together. And he's got a new offensive coordinator potentially coming in. So,
yeah, what have you guys made of the new hires? And then obviously, like I've been watching Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, every move they're making closely. Honestly, Ben Johnson has impressed me. He had a couple maybe somewhat awkward moments, but he made it through this initial cycle without being clowned in any way. Like we're seeing the Jaguars head coach, who is this guy? What in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then Aaron Glenn dealing with the New York media. I loved what I've heard of him so far. He is the man. You know what my favorite Aaron Glenn moment was of his tenure? Not sitting on the sideline, with his feet crossed after a job well done on the field. Is in that Commanders game, we finally get a damn stop out of halftime. And they cut to him on the sideline. And he's trying to rally the troops, almost like he's a head coach, like psyching them up, trying to get them going, trying anything to motivate these guys. Didn't work because there's just zero talent out in that field with all the injuries. But to me, that's a perfect encapsulation of Aaron Glenn. I love him. Just everything about this guy. I want to play for him. And they're asking about Aaron Rodgers, and he's not answering any of the questions. I just think he's going to do about as good a job as anyone could do in New York, given how much of a cluster that whole situation is right now. And then Ben Johnson, like I said, he's impressed me. I think he said some good things. He hasn't come across like an idiot. Coached some of the Lions, coaches like JT Barrett, for example. But what do you guys, 1, make of what they've done so far in their first week as a head coach? And then 2, what do you make of guys like Calvin Shepard coming in and being defensive coordinator for the Lions? You guys happy with the hires, or would you still like to see have liked to have seen an outside hire? What do you guys think?
Well, I think Shepard was a great hire, a great promotion to me. I like him. The team seems to respect him. I think was it Hard Knocks when he went into Campbell's office and said he wanted to cut off his dreads, and Campbell said, "No, man, no, don't do it."
Pretty cool.
And I think he's a class act, and I think that was a really good move to hire from within. To hire their DC. Now, on the offensive side, I guess there's question marks to me. I mean, John Morton seems to have done well in Denver. He's their quarterback's coach. Looks like he's going to be the offensive coordinator. He is 55, which concerns me a little bit, just because I think in the NFL, you really want some new blood making the play calls. Just my opinion, and I'm an old guy. You
want a 55-year-old defensive coordinator. You want a 35-year-old offensive
There you go.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and we've kind of, if that's who they end up hiring, it's kind of flip-flop because Shepard is a younger guy, and then it's funny to call 55 old, but that's kind of how the NFL is going a little bit. But no, you guys are all spot on. I think Aaron Glenn is going to be, who knows how it'll play out with the Jets. The Jets are kind of just a mess, but as far as potential, I think Aaron Glenn is a fantastic hire for him. He just seems like such a great leader, and he played for the Jets, so he understands New York media, so that I'll be curious what they do with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, in that whole situation. But Ben Johnson, I don't know. He just kind of seems like a nerd, but like in a good way, like, a football nerd, just like a football genius coach. I'll be curious how he is as a head coach. It's just very different being the head coach. You know what I mean? Like Dan Campbell is a head coach. He's a leader. I'm not saying Ben Johnson isn't, but, I'll be curious how that goes, especially if they start off 1-5 or 2-6 or something like that. Like, and maybe Caleb Williams isn't playing that great, and people start questioning Ben Johnson or whatever. I'll be curious how that goes. Hopefully they do, because I don't want the Bears to win at all. But no, Calvin Shepard. Yeah, you guys are spot on. I'm glad they stayed within, because all of our guys were starting to leave. Antoine Rendelel gone. I kind of forgot JT Barrett was on the staff, and apparently people loved him on the staff. He's gone. All these other dudes. They kept Hank Fraley, who was the offensive line coach, who Frank Ragnow and some of the other offensive linemen just rave about. Best offensive line coach they've ever had, all that kind of stuff. So I was very happy they kept him. And then, Shepard, I mean, the clips from Hard Knocks, and when you go back and see his highlight tapes from when he played at LSU, he just seems like such a great dude that all the players probably love playing for him. So I'm glad they kept that one in-house. John Morton, I don't know. I mean, he was an OC back in 2017 with the Jets, and otherwise he's basically been like a QB coach type of guy. If Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are trusting him with the offense, I'll go with it. You know what I mean? And even though I rail on Jared Goff from time to time, he's got a veteran quarterback. You know what I mean? Like he did well with the Broncos this year with a rookie quarterback. So now sprinkle him in with Goff, Laporta, St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, a good offensive line. Maybe that'll be a really good hire. But
we love Ben Johnson. I wouldn't hate seeing the offense maybe get back to its roots a little bit.
Run the ball.
Down the damn rock.
Right.
Yeah, especially with that offensive line. They're probably going to have some holes to fill there, but I think they will. And I think you got to go back to maybe eliminating some of the trick plays that we loved, but just go back to pounding the football, like you said, and play action. I mean, that's a recipe for wins to me.
Right. The trick plays, I mean, what did they ended up kind of saying, like, they're not trick plays because they're just a part of our offense, and right. We all love them. That's great. And, the end around, the hook and ladder, all those are fun. But when that kind of becomes like almost like the identity of your offense, you see where against the Commanders, they were almost kind of stuck because you can't do those plays over and over. So I will be curious what they do because, Graham Glasgow, he was basically the starter at left guard all season. Michigan guy, he's had a great career, but he, I guess, according to numbers and stuff like that, didn't have the best year. They've got the kid they drafted, that Mahogany, who ended up starting in the playoff game and played well. So
has some potential.
Yeah.
Right. Has some potential there. Zeitler, the veteran, he's a free agent. Will they bring him back? Ragnow is one of the best centers in the league, but he is kind of getting up there in age. Taylor Decker kind of getting up there in age. I saw Taylor Decker got the start in the Pro Bowl because of a Penei Sewell injury. I'm sure that's very much precaution. I doubt it's hopefully, fingers crossed, it's nothing serious for Sewell.
Do you remember when Sewell got rolled up on in that?
Yeah, I saw someone share that clip.
Right. Yeah, and he's tough. I mean, it wouldn't surprise if he actually had some serious damage done. He'll be fine for game 1 next year, but these guys are so tough in the NFL.
Right.
It's amazing. I don't know if
Ragnow was playing with a broken neck.
Right. It doesn't even make sense sometimes when you think of it. Can we go back to the Bills-Chiefs game real quick? I just have honestly, I have some maybe they are hot takes. I don't know. I hate when we blame everything on the refs after a big game like this. Listen, I don't care whether he got a first down, whether he didn't. To me, the Chiefs are like Mike Tyson in his prime. He's got the title belt. If you expect the judges to benefit you as this underdog in these big situations, which is essentially the refs, then you're going about it all wrong. Right. You have to knock these guys out. You have to chop their head off. And the way the Bills handled those 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, they didn't deserve to get the first down there. Maybe he got it by a millimeter, but anything that's a 50-50 like that, I usually give it to the defense. It's impressive to get a stop with 1 yard like that. To me, I cannot stand when stuff like this happens. We watch a whole game play out, and then all we talk about the next day is a spot. They didn't get it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. In my heart, he didn't get it. You needed to get that by a yard, not maybe by an inch or two. To me, it's lame that we have an amazing game with so many great storylines. Allen, Bills can't get over it. Mahomes, they do it again, and all we talk about is the officials.
Right.
Maybe, but again, I know a lot of people seem to agree that it was a first down, but to me, I don't care whether it was or wasn't. It was so close to call that you give it to the champions, you give it to the defense, in my opinion. What did you guys make of that questionable call? And do you agree? They're the champion. You got to knock them out. You can't be praying that the refs have your back in a couple of critical situations. Same thing with the Xavier Worthy catch. It was a catch to me.
It was.
So I just, the whole thing bothers me. The whole narrative around that game bothers me. The Bills just didn't get it done, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
All I'll say is it just seems to be a trend on the refs. I'll say that when the Chiefs are involved, it does seem like a trend. And I do disagree. You get the call, whatever the call is. I mean, no, you don't have to get it by a yard. If you get it by 6 inches, that's the call. Was it debatable? Yeah, it was. If they would have called it first down in the first place, probably would have stood as called as well, right?
Right.
So that one call you can't blame on the referees, but it is kind of funny, and I don't really think there's any conspiracy, but
Right.
there could be, but I don't think there is.
Yeah.
It just seems to be that trend that the Chiefs kind of been getting some calls that if it's a 50-50 call, it seems like they're getting the benefit of the doubt.
But I don't hate that. Like real quick, man. I don't hate that. That's the
Okay.
champion. That's the
Yeah.
champion's bump. Like the
I
judges
got it.
get in boxing. Listen, who wants to go to the judges with a Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield fight and be like, no, yeah, he barely got you 51% to 49. We're gonna take the crown off your head, the belt around your waist, and we're gonna put it on him. No, you gotta win it. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen said it after the game too. If you want to, be the champion, you have to beat the champion, and that is true. Like the Chiefs are the ultimate champions right now. They're like the Patriots, 10, 15 years ago or whatever. Like you can't, if you want to beat them, you can't hope that the refs give you a call here and there to help you. No, you got to go out there and beat them. And the Bills clearly haven't been able to do that. It is a little weird when you go back. The Chiefs seem to get all the, like you said, Ted, they seem to get all those 50-50 calls. The Xavier Worthy, I don't think it was like an obvious catch. You could definitely say, sure, it was because it's one hand or whatever, but that's that 50-50 call that goes in the Chiefs' favor. And, the spot, we talked about it last week or the week before. It's still just so weird to me that the NFL does it the way that they do, with two refs running in from the sidelines, both blocked by all of the offensive and defensive linemen. They try to spot. And then, Jared, you work in TV where you see, you're doing a game and you can see every angle. Those NFL games probably have
20
16,
cameras.
20 cameras. But sometimes you still just don't have the best look. Now they do have those pylon cameras like right down the line, but still there's 22 guys on the field, so like it's not going to be perfect looking at the replay. It's just crazy to me that we still kind of just like almost guess. All right, let's watch the replay, and a dude on the field is going to spot the ball, and you just kind of guess. And it's just crazy to me that we do that.
Well, you said it before, and we've seen it posted. I mean, the technology nowadays, put a chip in the football, make it a no-brainer. I mean, they do it in tennis, it's just, that seems just simple to me. And it goes kind of hand in hand with the whole zeros on the clock. I mean, have the goalpost light up when it hits zero or whatever you got to do. But that should not be a judgment call for the referee. Now, I got a question for you guys. It happened in both games. I mean, we had the tush push with the Eagles game. They tried it like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And all of a sudden we find out referees have the discretion to call a touchdown, if the other team is just diving over the line before the snap. And then, when you looked at the Bills, Tony Romo and Nance were all over it. They said the tendency is on the quarterback sneak by Allen, he always goes left. He did it 3 times in a row.
It was so uninspired, man. It was
unreal.
That's what was annoying.
The dude is 6'5", 250 pounds, and he's like dancing.
It's like the tush push. Why do they not have that in their playbook? It's just it's back to Ted's playing days. Just old school QB sneak, smash each other's heads, get 5 concussions. Get the goddamn running backs behind him and push him. That was what irritated me the most. Allen, and usually I love it when you let a game like live or die on your best player's arms and legs, like we saw with Josh Allen. But it was like a suicide mission. Every 4th down, he's having to die. He's like making miraculous plays, diving over the pile, fumbling it, recovering it himself to get these first downs because the play calling was so uninspired. In those situations. The tendency, everybody knew it. Clearly, they told Brady, or Romo and Nance in their pre-game meeting, the Chiefs did, like, hey, we know on 3rd and 4th and short, they're going to QB sneak to the left. And it just nailed it. And they never adjusted. The one play I liked, I don't know why they never went back to it, is Allen in the shotgun, QB sweeper on the right side. We're talking about Ted's playing days. That's a great play. I love the QB sweep when you have a good quarterback like him. Why did they only run that one time? I don't get it. Instead, let's just have them under center and try to out-strengthen these guys who squat 800 pounds on the defensive line. That to me is why they didn't deserve to get that first down spot.
I do have a take. You might laugh at it. I think they should abolish the pushing of the quarterback. I think that should be illegal. I don't think you should be allowed to do that.
Then it always goes to like where, if we're just saying like the tush push play or just pushing a player in general, because we've seen Penei Sewell come in and like push David Montgomery into the end zone, or so like where does it end? Are you just saying on the QB sneak or just in general?
Across the board, you can't push a player forward. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious how they would police that, because it does happen quite a bit. The tush push play though, it's just kind of ridiculous what it's come to. And on the fourth down play, 2 or 3 times, and then the last play of the game it didn't end up being the last game of the play of the game, but that big play, the fourth down, that Allen just chucked it up downfield. Mm-hmm. They went empty both times. I mean, I know they had a receiver motion in, but I was thinking as I'm watching these fourth down plays and Allen sitting back there, like you said last week, Jared, sitting duck. Yeah, cool. It's all spread out, and Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback, but it's like you're taking out the threat of any sort of run. And there's the QB run, I guess, but I just couldn't believe they were going empty backfield. And then the QB sneak with him dancing down the line and then trying to jump up the left side. Those were the plays, kind of to your point, Jared, where it's like, when you're doing stuff like that, you're not going to beat the Chiefs. Right. Chiefs know what they're doing. Andy Reid, he knows what he's doing every time. Oh, Mahomes is going to do this. Oh, there's Travis Kelce. Boom, 15 yards. They do it so much. Whatever running back they have, they sprinkle in whoever's at running back. Just kind of goes out a little screen. Mahomes just kind of flips it over to him, 15 yards, 20 yards downfield. And it's just like Andy Reid, they know what they're doing. And the Bills, again, seemed like they didn't know what the hell to do. It's just crazy to watch.
You talk about a haunted team. I mean, we're down in the dumps as Lions fans, but is there anything worse than being a Bills fan? Even though they've been good, but my God, like 4 lost Super Bowls. Now you have this new, basically, Super Bowl-esque run, the 4 falls of Buffalo, where now they can't get over the Chiefs. And how do you wake up today as a Bills fan and go, we're going to beat them next year? Yeah. The Chiefs defense is the youngest in the league and the best in the league. Mahomes, they're only going to get better weapons around Mahomes once Kelce eventually retires, and they just keep adding to their wide receiver depth and running backs. I mean, he's working with nothing, and he's still beating you. And this is the Bills' best season we've seen in a long, long time. It's just Mahomes is king, and that's why I like watching him in the Super Bowl. Like, people are really angry about this Super Bowl matchup. I love watching the Chiefs. Was I rooting for the Bills in that game? Yeah, but once they lost, it's like, okay, we get another Chiefs Super Bowl. It's like when Tom Brady was in the Super Bowl. Like, it felt bigger. The games were always awesome when Brady was involved. And Mahomes is kind of the same way, where it's like there's going to be fireworks, there's going to be storylines, there's going to be Taylor Swift, Kelsey's yelling at coaches on the sideline, like Andy Reid. Like, they are just an interesting team, and we're seeing something that's never been done before, a three-peat. I can't wait to watch it. And I have my villain in the Eagles, so I can't wait for the Super Bowl personally. But a lot of people, like, I got a couple texts, I'm boycotting the Super Bowl. Right. What did you guys think? I mean, it's a good matchup to me. 2 damn good squads, and you have the storyline of the three-peat and Mahomes really being unreal. Out of this planet good. I mean, basically a LeBron James-esque run. I can't wait for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I had depression, obviously, after the Lions loss. And this last weekend, I wasn't all geared up. I mean, I watched the games, and then the first game was such a blowout. I ended up tuning out of that one for a while. But I agree with you on the Super Bowl. I mean, I think this is – you lay it all out. You got probably the 2 best teams in the NFL going at it for the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I mean, the matchup alone it's a really good matchup. 2 really good teams, potentially best QB ever, going up against the running back having the historic season. So the matchup is great, but I think it's like any sport. We want to see some new teams in there as fans. But then when you say that and say it was Bills Commanders, I don't know if I would be that excited for a Bills Commanders game either. Obviously the Lions, we wanted the Lions in that, but people will complain because people are mad at Patrick Mahomes because he's beaten everyone. So of course people hate Mahomes because he's beaten everyone, so that's what it comes down to, but we'll watch. Yep. It's a Super Bowl.
Should be fun. All right. Let's
Super Bowl halftime show though. Ted, are you excited for Kendrick Lamar?
I can't wait. Is it Kendrick Lamar? Is that who it is? Yeah, boy, I can't wait.
I actually am looking forward to it. The storyline around it, I don't know how much you follow this, but the Not Like Us track, which is basically the biggest song, of the year, which was entirely a diss track toward Drake. Is he going to play it? Is he not? I mean, they're already playing it in the promos to the halftime show, so it's coming. But some of the lyrics in that song, they're gutting, man. And just, Drake is seething, like thinking of him playing that song. So I can't wait to see that part of it, to be honest.
Okay, apparently there's a feud. Fill me in real quick, like, maybe our listeners. What is this feud all about? Does it involve a
that's
female?
a great question, to be honest. Why don't they like each other? I don't really know. I think it's just like it's alpha beef, I guess, in the rap world. These are the two top guys.
Yeah.
I should look that up. I don't remember why the beef started, but Kendrick Lamar dropped this song, Not Like Us, that is entirely a diss toward Drake. It became like the biggest song of the summer this last year, and so it got played into oblivion. Now Drake is suing the same company that like owns him. I don't know what it is, like UWM, not UWM, some music group that owns Kendrick Lamar as well, because he feels like they were putting fake listens and pushing Kendrick Lamar's track, which again is boosting their client Kendrick Lamar, but it's taking away from Drake because they're both under the same umbrella of this company. It's a cluster, man. I don't know. You might have to just Google it. I didn't really explain it well, but
quick Google search says, and now I kind of remember this just hearing about it a little bit. The beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar began in 2013 when Lamar dissed Drake on Big Sean's song Control. So they had worked together because they did a couple songs together. So it really just came from, one guy just said something in a song, and then it just snowballed from there. And
12-year grudge.
12 years later, it's still going. And, sometimes I think some of these disses, I mean, I have fallen out of today's music a little bit, but I remember, back, in the 90s, early 2000s, I think sometimes they're legitimate disses. Guys just don't like each other, guys, girls, whatever. They diss each other in their songs. I wonder sometimes if it is played up a little bit, for record sales or whatever, probably to an extent, I think there's some that are probably legitimate disses, but, some of them might be a little fake. But
and then like a subplot, this may be the last we can go into it. Agreed. I am curious if this was fake. They're doing like, this is the ultimate, like, propaganda machine. It's amazing because it seems like pure hatred to the point where now LeBron James is getting diss tracks written about him because LeBron was a big Drake guy, and then once Kendrick Lamar became cool with this Not Like Us track, now LeBron's bumping it everywhere, even to the point where Steph Curry is like, dude, I'm sick of this song, like, to LeBron, like, let's stop playing it. And so now Drake came out with a diss track called Fighting Irish, which is where LeBron played high school, or was the nickname of his mascot in high school.
Right.
And talking about spewing all this stuff about, if people really knew what you do behind your wife's back. And it's messy, man. You should do a little digging and maybe give us a report back next week. Because you're such a good wordsmith. I don't know how to explain it. You could probably distill it down in a digestible way. So
I'll put that on my list.
Don't listen to these songs around the grandkids, though.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Let's move it from football a little bit to basketball. And Michigan, they bounced back last night with a 76-72 win over Penn State. We're recording this on Tuesday morning at Chrysler. So they're 10-0 at home this season, had a 9-0 run to close it out. That was a good bounce back win, like I said, after just getting completely demolished in West Lafayette to Purdue. Michigan still has potential, still a good team at 15-5. I think their weakness right now, and we talked about it before, is turnovers. They need to clean that up, and their play is a little inconsistent at times.
Oh. Yeah, they're so inconsistent. When they go through those stretches where Golden, Wolf, and some of the shooters are knocking down shots, I really think they could make a Final Four run. Yeah. I mean, with the size and the shooting that they have when they're playing well, it's the type of team that could easily win a few games in the tournament and make a Final Four run. But with that inconsistency in the turnovers, they could get knocked out in the first weekend too. So we know when it comes tournament time, it's all about matchups. If they get a bad matchup, they could be out early. So hopefully it's just something, mid-season, Dusty May can kind of figure some lineups out or whatever. I mean, we're approaching where you got to have this stuff figured out. But I saw someone, people after that Purdue game, that's a tough place to play. First of all, Purdue's a good team, and you go there on what, a Friday night tip off. And, that's just doomsday right there. people were starting to question Dusty May and, stuff like that. And I saw someone share John Beeline's record at Michigan, his Big Ten record on the road versus at home. He was essentially a 500 coach on the road. It was above 500, but it was around 500 on the road. And then he was incredible at home. So it's like, listen, I'd be curious to see Tom Izzo's overall career. It's probably, really good, but your road record is going to be different than your home record, no matter who you are, especially places like at Purdue. So I'm not like waving the the white flag or whatever you want to say and saying they're not even going to make the tournament or something, but the inconsistent play is a little frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, Michigan State's playing incredible right now. They haven't lost since before Thanksgiving. So I mean they're rolling.
Michigan State they are very, very good, man. It's a fun team. Like, as a Michigan fan, it's a fun team. Like, they're just no superstar, just a really good team effort. Izzo's message seems to be really getting through to them. Like, cherish this season, cherish this current era, because this may be Izzo's last, beacon of a damn good team that embodies everything that Izzo is about. And the player I'm most jealous that we don't have at Michigan is, I don't even know how good of an actual player he is, but he's electric, is Cohen Carr. This guy has a different monster dunk every game I watch of Michigan State. And that Michigan game, I believe our first game is at Breslin. Is that right? When we play them, he's going to have some thunder dunk first half to cap off a 10-0 run or something like that. That's just going to blow the lid off of that place.
That place is going to be so loud for that.
It's going to be fun. I worry, man, because to me with Michigan right now, they seem to be going like that Purdue game was a welcome to the Big Ten moment for Dusty May, for Wolf, for really this entire roster that wasn't here last year. And I think they are going to struggle a little bit in the physical Big Ten play just because we see it all the time. Like the teams that were best at defending Edey were the Big Ten teams that saw him twice a year. And Mick Cronin even admitted it earlier this year that the Big Ten is different. It's tougher. It's more physical. So I just think they're going to go through some trials and tribulations of Big Ten play, and you just hope they can shore up the goddamn turnovers by tournament. That seems to me like kind of something that's either with you or not. And to me, it kind of seems like that's just who they are, which really makes me nervous for the tournament. I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, they go through dry spells like you wouldn't believe, it seems like, with all the talent they have. Like, that's just what's crazy is, in that Purdue game, it's the first game I really sat down and said, I'm going to watch every second of this game. I only ended up watching like 10 minutes because it was over 2 seconds into the game. But it's like sometimes you're like, man, where the hell is Danny Wolf? Like, we need a bucket now. Like, you need to get us a bucket now. And it just wasn't coming in that game. Right. So I can't wait for that Michigan State game, but I really kind of do have a bad feeling. It's so hard to win in the Breslin any year, let alone when they're as good as they are right now.
Yeah, and you're spot on with the team. I mean, Izzo has them playing really good basketball. And the thing that impresses me most about the Spartans this season is it's not a team with really a superstar, even though Cohen's good. But, you got a guy like Jace Richardson stepping up with 20 points in his last game. And they're so deep. The bench is so deep. He can just throw them out there. Watch out for the Spartans.
Real quick, just to add to your I saw a stat where it was like, of all the teams that have had 10 guys score in a game, like State has 5 or 6 more games than anybody else in the country, with like 10 or 11 times. They've had 10 guys score. That's nuts.
I saw a clip, I think it was from early in the season, but I saw someone share it recently of Izzo kind of talking about that depth and saying, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said like previous years where they didn't go this deep, he feels like that maybe kind of hurt them come tournament time because they were kind of only relying on 6-7 guys. So I wonder if that's maybe a little bit of a strategy, or
adjustment.
Maybe an adjustment that him and his staff has made. Like, hey, we got to get these bench guys some minutes. So if we need them come tournament time, they're ready to go. Quick correction. The first Michigan State game is at Chrysler.
That makes me feel better.
It's a Friday night at Chrysler. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. The one at Breslin is the last game of the regular season. That classic. It's that classic Sunday afternoon before Selection Sunday.
Kiss the court, the
before
whole thing.
The conference tournament. But
I don't hate that because to me, this first game means a lot more, in my opinion. By the time that last one plays, you're already on to the conference tournament. You're already getting ready for March. You're almost like, unless it's like the Big Ten titles on the line, but it really is almost like meaningless. You'll forget about it a day later. Whereas this one in February, you get that whole month to ride that wave. So
for sure, you're right though, Ted. what seniors does Michigan State have right now?
Oh, it's a good question.
Yeah, I know we should probably know
I'll
that.
pull it
But
up. You guys
they'll
keep it.
that last game of the regular season at Breslin against Michigan, because that's what the Flintstones did, right? When Mateen Cleaves and those guys started that, I think the
Yeah.
last game when they kissed the court, it was against Michigan, and they beat Michigan by like 50 points.
Right.
Mo Pete and Mateen Cleaves and those guys are kissing the court. That might be what happens to Michigan that last game.
I'm telling you, we're going to get boat race in that game. And the storyline is going to be going into the tournament like, man, Michigan really looked bad in that game.
Yep.
And then Michigan State's it's going to be like the trendy team come,
Yep.
when you're filling out your bracket. Then Michigan is kind of going to be, maybe you get them at a good value after getting their doors blown off.
So you're saying the Michigan State game, the first one at Chrysler's on a Friday night?
It's a Friday night.
Yeah.
So it's a Peacock presentation, probably, would be my guess.
Could be.
Good. Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure. Probably.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun to watch down the stretch. Both teams are really good. And
Jaden Akins is a senior, so he'll be Frankie Fiddler.
All right.
That Zapata. Yeah, so just a couple role players and then Akins. So he's obviously the big one.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's going to be fun to watch for sure. Before we move on to Tedtertainment tonight, let's talk a little Red Wings. I got my Red Wings hat on. They're on a roll. They're 24-21-5, beat the Kings 5-2. Kings came into the game 25-15, basically. The story, I didn't watch the game. I wish I would have, but I saw that Dominic Shine made his NHL debut at 31. Just a great story. He was in a store buying skates for his 2-year-old when he got the call that, hey, come on and play tonight. And I guess he played 10 minutes and, no mistakes, played pretty well. That's a great story. And what McClellan has done, just amazing. They've kind of turned things around.
Yep.
I think they're 11-4 since he's been hired. I'm not a hockey junkie, but from what I understand is he's really elevated their power play. And apparently they've got this, like I was watching some guy break it down. Like, this is kind of cool. This is why I can't get into hockey is when I watch football, it's like you're picking up on the strategy, why they're running this counter play. Like, whereas I'm watching hockey, it's just guys skating in a circle. Whereas you realize there is strategy going on. So it's like this guy's breaking down the power play and how they stay moving. Whereas before they would basically just be stationary in 5 spots. Now it's almost like a motion offense in basketball. So it's really paid dividends. And yeah, it's nuts how just a change of voice has made us in the past month, like totally look at the future of the Red Wings entirely different. So they just got to keep it going, man. Get us a playoff. Imagine we talked about it already once on this podcast a couple weeks ago. Detroit Tigers baseball, which starts their season at LA Dodgers, which is going to be, I believe it's a night game opening day, which is pretty nuts. Scooble on the mound. That's going to be fun. Right around the same time, we could have Pistons in playoffs and Red Wings in playoffs. It really could be one hell of a month. And the NFL draft coming a couple of weeks later and the Masters. We just got to get to that.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. April in the D could be fun again. I mean, the Red Wings are still a few points out of the wild card, so they still got a little bit of a hill to climb, but they're playing well for sure. The Pistons right now are in the playoffs as far as the standings go. I mean, still only halfway through the season in the NBA, but that's what downtown Detroit, that's what Little Caesars Arena needs is we had the one little playoff series when Blake Griffin was there, but that almost doesn't even count. We need the Red Wings and the Pistons back in the playoffs in April when the Tigers are getting their season going. I mean, that's what we remember, back in the early 2000s, 2005, 2008, around those years when the Red Wings were good, Pistons were good, and the Tigers were starting their season. I mean, that's what it should be.
Yeah. Well, we know Cade Cunningham's having an all-star year for sure. And looks like he's the piece they need to build around. They've got some good young talent there. So it's definitely a team on the rise. But, I was going to ask you guys, and mostly you, Matt, you follow the NBA a lot closer than I do. They lost to Cleveland their last game. Cleveland's 37-9. I mean, how did they turn it around like that?
I mean, they've got it. Donovan Mitchell is their star player, and they really kind of put it together. How did they turn it around? I'm not sure, but they've got a good team, and I think they added the right kind of pieces around him. Darius Garland. They drafted Evan Mobley. They brought Jared Allen over, so they kind of added the right pieces, kind of like what the Pistons have done. Bringing over Malik Beasley for the Pistons, bringing over Tim Hardaway Jr., bringing back Tobias Harris. The Pistons have kind of done what the Cavs did. Donovan Mitchell is the Cavs' number one guy. Cade Cunningham is the Pistons' number one guy, and then they built around him. And,
Yeah, makes sense.
Hopefully Cade should be I hope he is an all-star. He should be an all-star this year. He didn't make the starting 5, but he should make it as a bench player. It'd be cool to see him in there.
My dream scenario of the playoff matchup. So currently we're in the 8th seed, which we were the 6th seed just a day ago. I think we're literally half a game back from the Heat right now for that 6th seed. Yep. The Knicks are the 3 seed. I mean, that 6 versus 3 matchup against New York, how awesome would that be? That's the dream setup, man. Yeah. Somehow, some way, let the standings align where we can get that matchup round 1. That's the NBA at its peak. Madison Square Garden. Just a really fun team to have a matchup against. We saw them last year in the round 1 matchup versus Sixers. Like, I really think that would be some great theater. And I think we could really compete with them. I don't think we'd win the series necessarily, but I think we can win a couple games at least.
For sure.
So that's the dream right now. 3 versus 6.
Sounds good. All right, let's take a short break, finish it up with a little Tedtertainment tonight, right after this. All right, guys, I don't have a lot here, but, I was going to watch Saturday Night on Netflix.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
And I was going to have a review. I was actually going to watch it yesterday. I can't believe what Netflix is doing to me. I got the plan. It's $6.99 a month with commercials, right? So I went to click on, it would not allow me to watch it. Whatever, you can't watch it on the Netflix with commercials. So
wow.
What?
So they're forcing you to upgrade your plan
if I want to watch it. Yeah.
Dude,
can you
upgrade your plan, man? Upgrade your plan. I mean, come on. You're maybe the first guy I've ever heard of that has commercials on Netflix.
Wow. Have you ever checked it out with the commercials? There's like one commercial during a show. It's no big deal.
Admirable. Like, I wish I was more like, I spend too much on dumb stuff like that. So maybe it's because I'm jealous of you, but like, make the plunge, man. And this is exactly why they know people like you. Saturday Night Live, you want to watch it so bad that I think you're contemplating making that jump. Is that fair to say?
Either that or sharing a password with somebody that already has it. I might do that. No, it just pissed me off, man. They never told me that rule when I signed up, that there's certain programming I'm not going to be able to get. That's
the fine print, man.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
No, it is. It's definitely like you got to be. How long have you've been a Netflix customer probably since they were sending DVDs to houses, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Like you're what do you call it? Like you're grandfathered in, to Netflix. So, right. It is kind of a shame that they do that, but to an extent, what are they going to do? Like, you're just going to cancel your subscription, or you're going to pay, because next thing you know, there's going to be 3 or 4 series that you want to watch that you have to be the premium subscriber or whatever. It is BS though.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's got to eventually be free, I would think, but whatever.
Or well, like, what did you think of Chalamet on Saturday Night Live as both musical guest and as skits? I know you probably enjoyed that.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. My wife's out of town, and we both enjoy watching SNL on the DVR. So I didn't watch the whole show, but I did see his musical clips. Guy's phenomenal, man. He's got Dylan down, and he can really sing and perform. I like him. I like him a lot.
He's the guy right now.
Yeah, I'd be curious what kind of like his next few roles are going to be. Like, if he's going to do some other where he's actually performing like that, or if he's going to just continue being a dramatic actor or what. But
I think he's a lot of talent. One movie I'm looking forward to seeing. I think it's coming out this year. He did a movie with the Safdie brothers, which I think they did like Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, like a ping pong movie where he's like a ping pong player. So I'm intrigued about everything with that. So I think that might be his next big role, is whatever that movie. I don't even know the name of it, but I know that's coming down the pipe soon. Yeah. So
it's funny you bring up, you don't know the name of it. There's another movie that's either out right now that I saw the previews when I saw the Dylan movie. The concept of it is ridiculous, and maybe it gets good reviews or whatever. It's the one with the guy that's a monkey that sings in a band.
Yeah,
you know what movie that
Robbie
is?
Williams, apparently some guy from I don't know, Europe. I've never heard of him in my life.
Robbie Williams.
Apparently it's a pretty good pretty good movie. Right. But we have no idea who the hell this guy even is. So why am I going to watch it? And then you add in the part that he's a monkey. I think it bombed like in America, like worse than any movie like maybe ever. So
yeah.
I've seen previews or I've seen clips on Twitter of that movie, and that's what I've seen, that it didn't do that well. Robbie Williams was big, like when I was in high school, around that time and after college, kind of like I don't know if he was like dance type music or like techno type music, but he definitely had a certain brand of music.
Yeah.
I remember some of his songs, but I have seen clips of that movie. It's definitely interesting.
It's freaky looking, man.
A little freaky for sure. There's some shows coming up. I know Ted, you're excited for 1923 to come back.
For sure.
That's coming. There's a Netflix documentary. I mean, I'm going to be watching it the minute that it comes out. Follows this past summer's USA basketball team.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
You know, I saw a clip of Kevin Durant. It's cool because now the Olympic basketball, there's NBA players for every other country. So, you know, it's not a bunch of dudes you don't know who they are. So when they're interviewing guys from other teams, it's NBA players. So the minute that comes out, I'm going to be watching that for sure. But a show I'm watching right now, CNN, I don't know if you guys have seen promos for it. Absolutely. It's Kobe, Making of a Legend. Mm-hmm. It's only going to be a 3-part. They're dropping 1 episode each weekend. So only 1 has been out. I watched the first episode. I mean, you guys probably knew I'd be watching it for sure.
100%.
It's interesting because this first episode, it's a ton of video from like him growing up in Italy, from his high school days in Philadelphia, even as a child. I mean, this dude had, because his dad was a professional basketball player, obviously. They went over to Italy. He was a huge star over there in Italy. And then when he came back to Philly, Kobe was the number 1 player in the country. So he had a camera following him basically his whole life. And it's just interesting to see that first episode. You've heard all the stories about how he was kind of an isolated guy. You know, he was so deep into his craft, you know, being the best basketball player he could be, that he didn't really have that many friends. But you can almost kind of see why, because he like got, you know, as a child, had to go to Italy, to a completely other country. And then, you know, he finally is making friends, and they interview some of his childhood friends from over there in Italy, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So, you know, so first of all, he goes over to Italy where he doesn't know the language, doesn't know anyone. He's a black kid in an area where, you know, they talked to his basketball coach over there, where he was like, he said back in those days, there weren't that many black people over here in this area of Italy. So, you know, he's already kind of an outsider in that sense. And then in high school, so he's finally got friends. He's finally, you know, becoming, you know, who he is as a kid. And then his dad says, I'm retiring and we're moving back to Philly. And Kobe even said in one of the interviews, he was like, when I moved back to Philadelphia, I almost couldn't understand English because we were only speaking Italian and, you know, Spanish or whatever over there. So then you're in inner city, not just English, but, you know, the slang and all that kind of stuff. You're an outsider. So you can kind of see why, like, it was probably tough for him for a while to have friends. And then, you know, obviously the spotlight, number 1 player in the country, obsessed with being the best basketball player ever. It's just interesting seeing all that. So these next couple episodes are going to go into, obviously, you know, his scandals and, you know, some of the other stuff in his life. So it'll be interesting to see where else this goes.
Yeah. Looking forward to watching that one.
It's kind of like the opposite. You're talking about how he went from Italy to Philly. It's like the opposite of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, man. It's like basically swapping the plot of that around.
Right.
Yeah. What did you say it was airing on? I missed that part.
CNN. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna have to DVR that sucker on my Fubo and watch that. I didn't even know. Man, I feel like I haven't seen any previews of that or anything. So
I didn't. I randomly saw it. I don't even know where I saw it. Maybe on Twitter, or actually, I think I did see someone share a clip on Twitter, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" So I made sure to go and hit record on it. So I you know, even, you know, obviously I'm a Kobe guy, so I'm gonna watch it. But even it's a 3-part. Each episode is whatever, like 50 minutes. So maybe wait till they all come out and you can knock them all out in, you know, a couple hours. But I'd recommend it.
Yeah, sounds good.
I got one just real quick. I'll throw it out there. So season 2 is actually airing right now. I've only watched the first 3-4 episodes of this show. It's been getting a lot of buzz everywhere. Severance. So it's Ben Stiller directed. I love Ben Stiller, man. I always have. Probably because, I mean, there's a lot of kids. I watched Heavyweights, no joke, like probably 300 times in my life. And he is just iconic, Tony Perkins. So I love Ben Stiller. He's the director of this.
He's great.
Adam Scott from Step Brothers, who's like the asshole brother in that movie,
Yep.
is the main character. So I'll just give you the quick little rundown of what
Is it Jason Bateman too?
I haven't seen Bateman come in yet. Maybe he's in the season 2.
For some reason, I thought I saw him, but
possibly. I mean, it's a good cast. So basically, the plot is, I mean, we've all had this. I had this last night. I screwed up something at work. It's all you can think about as you get out of work. You don't even get to really enjoy your night. So basically, the plot is: imagine if you could, like, they call it sever, where you go into work for 8 hours and you wipe your memory. All you know is you're working for 8 hours in that place. Then you walk out and you have your like life. You don't even know what you're doing at work. And it just goes from there. It seems like kind of there's not much to that story, but there really is. It's really well done. It's got a little bit of humor to it. It's kind of a dystopia type deal. It's honestly, I can't recommend the show enough. 4 episodes in, from what I've heard, season 2 so far is just as good as season 1. It's awesome. I can't remember. Ted, it's right up your alley, man. You got to watch this. This is
it's on Apple TV, right?
Yeah, Apple TV.
Oh, geez.
So something else you got to sign up for, Ted.
Well, right now I'm on the 7-day free trial, but
right.
burn through it, man. If you really like it, then maybe you just buy that 1 month so you can watch season 2. But you got 7-day free trial to see if it's worth for you or not.
Not a bad idea. I might just have to do that.
And the other thing is too, that's one, all these streaming, it's ridiculous. All these streaming services, it's insane. But like it's kind of cool that they let you do a 1 month.
Yeah.
Because if there is one show you want to watch, okay, do the 1 month, and then something like Apple TV, there's a bunch of stuff on there. So in that 1 month, you can maybe knock out a few things and call it good. But
yeah,
then you just add it to the bill of all these streaming services that you're paying for. It's crazy.
It is crazy. That's how I ended up finishing Ted Lasso. I got a new iPhone, so I got a free 3 months. So
nice.
I watched all I could.
Got it, right? Well, or was this long?
I don't have it now. My 3 months is over.
All right.
Jason Bateman's not in that show. I think I was thinking of Adam Scott. I thought I saw, but yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that's like it's like the hottest show right now or whatever.
Yeah, Bateman is in a new show. I can't remember what it is, but he is in a new one. One final thing for me, guys, is I texted you guys this. You know, I really, really have become a big Billy Bob fan, and that show Goliath, it's excellent. You know, we loved Landman, but Goliath, he plays this down and out type of lawyer that's brilliant, and it has a great plot. I'm like 5 or 6 episodes into season 1. There's 4 seasons, but it's prime Billy Bob. So if you're ever looking for a series you want to start and watch and enjoy Billy Bob, Goliath, it's a good one. That
show's, it's done though, right?
It is. Yeah. It's all
4
finished.
seasons.
4 seasons. Yeah. I can't remember what network. I think it's on Prime. I think it's on Prime.
I think I saw that too. Yeah. I ended up looking that up too. I'll be honest. When I saw 4 seasons, it was like,
I know.
But I'd take your recommendation for sure. But I was like, oh man, 4 seasons. See, now Severance, that'd be one where it's like, all right, I'm only a season behind, or I guess 2, but whatever. I could I could catch up to that show quickly, but
right. Man, and who doesn't love watching a show like and having the water cooler in quotation talk on a Monday? So it's like the time is now to get in on this show. Binge through that season 1. You'll catch up to where people are currently live. Watch maybe the finale live on TV. I'm telling you, jump in now. It's a very good show. I'm loving it.
Good advice. Good advice. All right, I'll check it out. All right, let's call it a podcast.
They didn't seem very reassuring that you were.
Well, you know,
he's still thinking about having to pay more for Netflix, and now he's gonna have to pay for Apple TV.
You guys know how much I pay for cable, and then I still have these streaming services too. So I mean, there's got to be a line somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't just sit and watch TV all the time. That's it.
It's true.
All right, let's call it a podcast. I want to thank the good folks at Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Don't forget to follow them on Facebook. Find out how to save big bucks on a membership. Also want to thank our other partners, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. I mean, we have a boatload of partners. We love every one of them. And anytime you're in their business, tell them you've heard their spots right here on 3 Point Podcast. Our Z92.5 Game of the Week, one more time, coming up Friday night, the 31st. Chesaning at Ovidel, see big MMAC battle. I'm back in the saddle on play-by-play. Looking forward to working with Joe on that one. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks again for listening.